Hey everybody, my name is Tobias Hamilton. I am the president of the Piano Technicians Guild for all of South Florida and the owner of Hamilton Piano Company, which is a fourth generation piano rebuilding facility in West Palm Beach, Florida, focused on bringing pianos back to life. We do everything from rebuilding and restoration to refinishing, tuning, moving, renting, storage, service, and sales. We do it all to preserve the decades, sometimes over a century, of history that these incredible instruments have, ensuring that they continue to bring joy for many years to come. I decided to start this podcast to not just show people the breadth of the piano industry and all its various roles and specialties, the insane level of care and craftsmanship that goes into creating and maintaining these storied instruments, but also to just talk about music and to share with everyone the passion and experience of the people who create it. To do that, I'm going to sit down with some colleagues and friends, people I've worked with for many years, like Mike and Mike, both piano movers with many years of experience, Ian, professional photographer and owner of Minnerly Media, and other people here, staff at the shop and outside of the shop. In the future, we'll have a variety of other guests from all over the piano and music industries. And fair warning, we are new to the whole podcasting thing, so please forgive us for any background noise in the first couple of episodes. We should have that sorted out in the future, so bear with us in the meantime. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy. And this is a first for me. I mean, I've never done this before. I've been on the other side of the microphone where people have interviewed me, but I've never been on this part of it where we're, actually doing our own broadcast. But the cool thing is a few people that I've been talking to, the piano players and some teachers, they're all excited about coming on board. And these are people that have really, really good stories. So I'm really excited about getting them on there and promoting them and trying to get the word out there, how important music education is for all these students that are out there learning piano and things like that. But I think this is cool. What do you guys think?
I think so. Absolutely. It's just more buzz, get more people talking about piano. We are constantly reminded that the piano business is in decline. And there's a lot more going on in the piano business than what people still are thinking.
The cool thing with this is that I don't know if you saw, not talking about Apple's latest death with the photos, but Apple's latest ad for the iPad, their new iPad, where they're advertising. Basically, it was a trash compactor taking pianos, music instruments, and a lot of other things, smashing it into an iPad. And so many people were like, "Oh, so what you're saying is the iPad replaces a piano and this and that." And there was actually a big backlash for Apple for that. So there's a reason to keep true acoustic instruments alive, because in this digital age, it's so easy for people just to go synthetic route. And I think there's way more for this.
Absolutely, and we just said the other day too. I brought it up too. It's I've been saying with all this technology taking over, I think there's going to be a bit of a renaissance at some point where people are going to be kind of tired of that and want to kind of get back to the roots of entertainment.
Well, and they've tried to replace the piano. If you think about it, digital keyboards. You cannot replace the piano. You can't replace it.
You lose power, you can't play it.
Exactly. So it's your form of entertainment way back in the day, over 100 years ago, before electric, before anything before the phonograph was the piano.
It's hurricane proof.
Exactly. And if the hurricane hits it, we'll rebuild it for you. So it's not a problem. But yeah, that's the thing is that it's something that it's the most complex instrument out there. It's the only instrument. My dad told me this, that they hooked a computer up to a piano. And this was years ago. My dad's been gone like 13, 14 years now. And so I think he told me this about 20 years ago, that they hooked a computer up to a piano back then. And the computer said that a piano can produce over 100 billion different sounds. And the human ear will never hear all of them. It's impossible. And that's going from a computer from back then. Now if they did it, I mean, maybe one of you guys out there listening to this, if you're a computer guy, see if you can come up with that, because it might be 200 billion. Who knows? But the human ear will never hear everything that a piano has, because there's different chords, there's different pitches, there's different. Every piano sounds different. The voicing and the way it plays
is different too.
Exactly.
Well, what you're basically saying is you have 88 keys, and if you do in math, that's 88 factorial, and that is a very, very, very large number that you have of combinations that you can do to make noise on a piano, basically. And that's only by taking 12 notes. And basically, 12 notes can be played by everybody differently.
That's not even taking into account, that's just just basically playing the keys. But when you get into doing stuff like the piano guys do and stuff like that,
Right.
like using it as a percussion instrument, beating on the
I've
soundboard,
Always
and,
love that.
and hitting the string with a wrench or hanging a paper clip on a string, something like that. That's you can
Well,
do
that's why
all
you can
kinds of
beat
stuff.
acoustic instruments. You can take an acoustic guitar, you can use your arm and bang on the acoustic part to make a drum. You can strum on it. You can't do that with an iPad. You can barely get a
Right.
few,
There's no true sound.
Oh, you can do it. It's just not going to turn out well.
Well,
for
when you
that
break
band.
the string.
Well, and I don't think digital pianos sound anything like acoustic pianos.
No, they don't. They can't replicate it. It's
As
impossible.
much as they try.
And
they
they've
can do it.
come
They've
light
come
years
far.
from
Oh,
where they
yeah.
were when I
Yes.
first got into this. They
Right.
sound great, but they're still not.
No, and you're also taking another aspect out of it is the actual therapeutic side of piano. Because sound healing is a proven technique for actual mental benefits, physical healing. I don't know if you're familiar with Tibetan crystal bowl ceremonies where they're actually very beneficial for you. Pianos are
We have
people
a
who listen
customer
to
that
piano
does
music
that.
as kids. They're higher IQs than people who don't. Because it actually has a lot of mental benefits. It's not just the music; it's the actual resonance of the acoustics that actually is part of the benefit.
Mhm.
So when you cut that out with digital, you're basically taking that pure natural resonance and making it just the sound from the speaker.
Yep. And and now you're talking about one aspect of the piano, which is playing it. Now get into what we do, rebuilding it. And there's so many avenues with the piano. From you have the teachers, you have the players, you have the technicians, you have the rebuilders, you have the movers, you have the player installers. I mean, there's so many different avenues with a piano. It's like when I first started doing it, I was doing pretty much everything by myself. And as time went on, there are people that were better than me at jobs that I was doing, and I learned from them, which made me a better rebuilder / technician, and it made me respect what they do, and they work here. So it's like a win-win all the way around, and we're still learning from each other. I mean, that's the beauty of it. So, but that's the beauty of the piano and when you're rebuilding a piano, just like when you're playing a piano, you could have 6 different piano players. You're going to get the same song played 6 different times. You get 6 different tuners. You're going to have 6 different tunings. It's just the way it is. It's like a tuning. I always think of like a fingerprint. It's like I know I followed other tuners. I know who tuned that piano because it's like their fingerprint. And that's the beauty of it, is that we're all different. The way my father tuned the piano, the way my grandfather and my uncle is different than the way that I tune it. Even though I learned from my father and my uncle, I'm still a different tuner than them. But it doesn't mean that one was better than the other. It's still the right, making it the right way.
Music is art, and art is subjective. You can't say there's bad art. Well, you can say there's bad art, but you can't. It's really subjective to what people like, and your own preferences.
It is art, and it's cool. I mean, from all the avenues that are with the piano, and it's just like I went to see Copeland Davis. Hayden and I went to see Copeland play. And he's going to be one of the guests on the show, and I hope everyone will tune in for that. But basically, watch him on YouTube. Watch how good he is.
He's phenomenal.
He is like, I mean, if you blink, you'll miss him because he plays so fast and he's so good at what he does, and he's just fantastic. And it's like, and my son's playing with him, and it's like, oh, that's so freaking cool, And Copeland comes in here, every so often, and he's a good. Yeah, he is family.
He's got great shoes too.
Yeah, the shoes he had. After the show, he called me.
Were they blue?
No.
These were crystal balls on his feet.
Yeah, it was a disco ball.
It was a disco ball.
It was a disco ball. It was a whole sparkly freaking.
You could not miss him. But anyway, so it was. He called me, and I didn't get the message until after we left. But he wanted to see us after the show. So, but he's so good at what he does, and you know what? As good as he is, he's just as humble about it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? He's so warm and so loving and so kind, and he's one of these guys that I remember the first time I tuned for him. Man, I was scared. I'm sitting there because I know how hard of a piano player he is, and I'm tuning his personal piano, and I was nervous wreck. And so I tuned it, and I beat that thing in as hard as I could to make sure that when he played it, he was happy, and he was, and I've worked for him ever since, and that was 25 years ago, I think. And but you look him up on YouTube, like I said, and you watch him play, it's like if you blink, you'll miss his fingers. That's how fast he is.
Have you seen? He's actually on the QRS system.
Oh, he is.
Oh yeah.
Oh, great.
When I hooked up the customer the other day.
I don't even think the QRS system can fly as fast.
I don't know, but I mean, when I
short
hooked up the
circuit.
QRS for the Mason the other day, and we were going through, Copeland came right up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I don't know how many songs he has on there, but that was pretty.
Oh, that was yesterday. That was Zepetus.
Yeah, that was the Mason and Hamlin
Yeah.
AA that we sold to that customer and installed a player system. And he, the cool thing is that he's doing that thing. We installed that MIDI system, that piano scan, so that he could play live. He can play live into his at his own personal piano. Whoever has a QRS player system in their home all over the world can pay to have him playing live in their home. That is cool.
That's pretty nuts.
You know, and these other artists, you know, they can do it with the piano teachers too, where the students could be in California and the teachers here in Florida, and they can do it over the internet. And the teacher actually can track to see if the student has been practicing as much as they should have been. So, I mean,
Creepy, but cool.
right, but the cool part is like so you talk about the digital pianos, which is all well and good and cool, but now you're talking about that electronic part of it. You're installing into the piano that you can do. You know, I mean, you can turn an acoustic piano into an electric piano. You can make it a hybrid piano. We do that all the time here, and those are the cool things where you're able to do certain things with an acoustic piano that no one's ever thought of before, you know, and that stuff is evolving and growing every day.
And that's something that probably a lot of people don't still know about yet. And they probably think a player piano, you got to put a floppy disk in or a CD in or something like that. But no, everything's run off your
iPhone
device,
or your iPad or
whatever you can download the app onto.
Absolutely.
Right. You know, but it's
Regular cell phone or whatever.
so getting back to what you said about, you know, people were talking about the piano world's dying. You know, my uncle said that to me when I was first getting into the business, because for him, it was different. He was on the, you know, the 80s was like the decade that pianos were sold the most, and it was so super busy. 90s a little bit too. And now I'm at the end of the 90s where I'm getting into the business, and my uncle's saying, you know, the piano business is dying and this and that. I'm like, well, really? It's kind of busy. But for me, it was because I'm new and it's like I'm busy and I'm tuning and I'm doing what I'm doing. But I think the benefit of these reality TV shows is what has also boosted the piano business in sales, because American Idol, you got people on there playing the piano, you know, for their songs, and you got The Voice, and you have these reality shows. Even if you saw a piano in the background, you know, or
not just the reality shows too, but now you have mediums like YouTube where people can put their own self-published work on there, and you know you can share it. Videos go viral. Keyboardists playing their stuff, pianists playing their themes, and you know you have more exposure. Whereas before, you only exposure to music was honestly going to concert halls, and you know even before the radio, literally concert halls, and you had to have money for that.
Right.
So now, like, everybody can be an artist and publish and be their own, you know, musician without having all that. And so you have a lot more visibility in that arena as well.
yeah, and you go to, so you know, we tune for these big artists. You know, we work for Live Nation, we tune for Olivia Rodrigo, and all these artists that use a piano. When you're on that stage and you're looking, it's so freaking cool because you're on that stage. You're like, man, there's tens of thousands of people going to be here. And you're not the artist. I'm not the artist, you know, but you're sitting there and it's just like, this is so freaking cool. And how that feeling you get back, it's like when an artist is doing what they're doing and the feedback they get from the audience is that reciprocated. It's the same thing with the piano. When you're sitting at the piano, it should give you a feeling back that you're giving it. You know, it becomes intimate. That the piano is an extension of what you're doing in your art, you know, and then you start adding voice to it and other instruments and stuff like that. It's just, it's an incredible freaking instrument. I mean, and the mechanics of it haven't changed much in almost 200 years, you know, so now they're using composite parts and things like that.
It's a lot more than that, actually. I mean, in the early 2000s, we had the 300th anniversary of the piano celebration. So
right, but when the piano was first born by Cristofori, and that's how you say his name, I learned that at a PTG convention. It's not
really?
Yeah, it's not Cristofori, it's Cristofori. And
years.
and so the piano was, of course, very small, and he built the first like grand piano. There's still that class was pretty cool because that it was in the Smithsonian, and the two technicians that were allowed to even go there, they had to go there after hours when it was closed. They could not touch it, but they could put a camera through to see how he constructed. There's only one or two, if I remember correctly, left in the world, but they wanted to duplicate it to see how he came up with this design. But you can't go taking it apart to figure it out. So they had to put cameras through it. It took them years to figure that out. And they did piece by piece by piece by piece.
Just by going in with a camera.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep. And that's how they figured out how he started that whole process of it. So that was really, really interesting. And
Where was he? Where was he from? He was Italian?
yeah, Italy.
Here, I just have him up here, and basically he said that he was frustrated, unsatisfied with the lack of control that musicians had over the volume of a harpsichord. So he basically, he's credited out for switching out the mechanisms and to give you more control.
There's only so much you can bang on a harpsichord.
That's
Before it breaks.
Plucking a string.
So, and the thing is how it has
Harpsichords are
evolved.
pretty cool, though. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
They
I,
are.
mean, I love the sound of them. I mean, they're really such a unique sound.
I'm just afraid to touch them because I feel like I'm going to break it. You know, they're so fragile.
They are fragile.
But the you know, if you think about it, okay, so Cristofori and Beethoven and all these guys way back in the day, what they played on, like a square grand, you know, well, there weren't piano movers like today. They had to put this on a horse buggy, you know, and move those. But what they
They're a lot stronger
what
than
they
us.
but what they they didn't lift the piano onto the carriage, but what they played on back then was not a modern piano, and what they came up with back then. Now think about it. What if they had a modern piano? What would they have come up with? You know, it's mind-boggling because the nostalgic part of that is that the music would be a lot different. It really would be. And there's no two pianos that are exactly the same.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing. It's like, you know, when you're rebuilding a piano, I don't care what manufacturer it is. You could take Steinway, Bosendorfer, Yamaha, Kawai, any manufacturer, and no two pianos are exactly the same. It's impossible. So, and it's our job as technicians and rebuilders to draw the personality out of the piano, to give it its voice. And it's you're limited to certain pianos, you know, certain models and things like that, to what you can do. But when you for instance, the 1887 are you recording? Okay, well, I didn't know.
Wow. We're new to this.
The 1887, yeah, this is
These podcasts will get better.
Trial run.
this is the
numbers.
Yeah. But the 1887 Steinway C that we're rebuilding, oh my God, that piano sounds incredible. It sounds so, doesn't it?
That can't wait to hear
when that piano is done. I mean, we brought the voice out of that piano. And you know, Steinway stopped making.
Shout out to Trevor.
Yeah, absolutely, because Trevor did the soundboard in Pembroke. He's probably the youngest guy in the country doing soundboards in Pembroke. So he's so good at it.
Right here at Hamilton.
Yep. And so, and because of the German strings, the German action, and Bolduc, the soundboard from them, and the Bolduc Pembroke. I mean, the combination, when you start putting all those parts together and they start gelling together, and with the right parts and the right techniques and the right technicians, that's why that piano sounds so good, because it is. That's a mamma jamma of a piano. I mean, I can't wait till we're done with it, because that's why, you know, I like rebuilding pianos so much, because you're building something that's going to last for decades. It's not going to last a year. You know, buy a car. You buy a car, you get to make 10 years out of it at the most part.
5 years.
So
Yeah.
I was being generous, but okay, 5 years.
We'll go
Ian
with 5.
knows. Trust him.
Ian knows. Yeah, he's been through so many cars. But that piano, I mean, you take care of it, you got another 80 years on that thing, you know? And yeah, you may have to rebuild it down the road. So what? You're going to keep prolonging the life of it.
Again, no matter how far piano technology progresses, that's always going to be a better piano from now until 5,000 years,
Yeah.
7,000 years. That's always going to
Absolutely.
be better.
And that piano will outlive all of us. That's the thing too.
And the digitals. It's going to outlive.
Right.
You know, I mean,
My digital piano I bought lasted me 2 years and half of the keys broken.
At the very least, the technology is going to be out of date. Within a year now?
Mhm.
2 years or something like that?
If that.
It's
Yeah.
always a year, because companies have to report profits in the yearly quarter. You know, they have their thing, so it's always a yearly new model. Like once a year you get your iPhone, once a year you get that. So the same thing with like music. You know, they want every year you want to be upgrading. Sadly.
If you're by the ocean, you got saltwater corrosion, which gets underneath there.
Mhm.
It corrodes the electrodes and contacts, and then you spend all this money, and now you're out.
Right. And it happens with a piano, but you can protect a piano. You cannot protect a digital keyboard. And you can replace the parts on that where you cannot replace them on a digital piano because after a few years, they don't make the parts anymore.
Yep.
And
Obsolete. You
piano
need to buy a new one.
piano technicians are hard enough to find, okay? Because we're a dying breed. We really are. Try finding a guy to work.
Keyboard technicians.
There's,
Good
I
Lord.
know maybe one in South Florida, maybe two.
There's like two that I know.
Yeah.
of, but they're booked from now to the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm sure it's cheaper to buy a new keyboard than it is to try to get one fixed anyway.
Not necessarily. It depends on the keyboard.
Yeah, it depends on,
You buy a high-end, digital piano that's a $10,000, $12,000 instrument. Keyboard, sorry. But if you buy one of those and then 5 years down the road after the warranty's expired, what are you going to do? But it's just, that's what this podcast is all about. It's about talking about the things that maybe people don't think about. A lot of people look at a piano, like I've been told numerous times when I was growing up in the business, and of course, I'm young, I'm in my 20s, and I have my friends, they're like, really? Piano tuning? Is that even a profession? And I'd go to a guard gate and I'd say, yes, I'm the piano technician for Mrs. So-and-so. And they're like, oh, so that's what you're calling yourselves now, piano technicians. And I'm like, yeah, we are technicians. That's what we do. But, as growing up, people were saying, really that kind of profession? Yeah, it's a profession. And if you don't love doing it, and if you're not in it 150%, don't get in it. That's the other key too, because there's what, the term I don't like to hear is a side hustle. Is this piano tuning business a side hustle for you? Absolutely not. We are in this 150%, all of us, because we love and care about it so much.
Hey, I can relate as doing photography, though, that how many people have photography jobs as a side hustle, and they do that because their passion's not in it. They think, I can just pick up a camera and go shoot, and that's it. But then they ended up, they don't get the same things,
I can take a picture.
Yeah, but their heart is not in it. Though.
I got an Android.
But that's the same thing with that you guys, it's your passion. That's what you were. You brainwashed all your kids growing up in and stuff to love pianos. So
and the beauty of it is, so my daughter was here, right? And so I said, Tori, while you're working, I'm going to have Anna come take a picture of you working because you're a fourth generation. This is great. This is cool. And she's like, no, don't take a picture of me. I'm like, you don't have to look at the camera. Just keep doing what you're doing. So I said, I'm going to have her come over and take a picture. You're not going to know about it because that part of it is how many fourth-generation companies are there out there in the piano world? Not just in general, just in the piano world. 2 that I know of. Us and Linden Black. That's it.
I don't know about what the other guys up there in New York. I don't know what theirs.
They're not. There's no one that's.
They're not multiple generations.
Well, the thing is that I don't know if Cunningham is, or I know Faust isn't, but you get the that now we've got that fourth generation. Okay, so we got 4 generations here. We got Fernando, we have Rosie, and then we have our next generation, which is our age, and then we have Ian's age guys, and then we have Trevor and Brandon and Tori and Jordan, the 20-year-olds, and we have this network of the future happening while my kids are in college, while everybody's doing what we're doing, but we're making it so that, listen, we all know we're not going to live forever. So I hate to break it to you, but
It's the worst news ever.
I missed that email.
But we've got it so that this will keep going on well past us. Just like that piano that we rebuilt is going to outlive us. Who knows? 40 years from now, let's not say 40, let's say 30 years from now, 20 years from now, Brandon could be tuning that piano. Tori could be tuning it. Trevor could, you never know. They could be tuning that piano like I used to follow my grandfather's tunings that, he did years and years ago, decades ago, not years, decades. And people still come up to me sometimes and say, I knew your dad, I knew your uncle, I knew your grandfather. And that's cool. We have customers for 40 years, if not more, because they pass the piano on to their kids.
and we've either rebuilt it or we're still tuning it and we're still doing this. So that's a whole generation that's being passed on from one generation to the next generation. And that's why I built this business. I did what I did because it was for building that to provide work for other people, to provide jobs, to do work for other technicians that I knew that they want to do, and to keep the generations going. Because the business can't stop with us. It can't. It has to keep going because it's something special. It's something that you don't see every day. This is something that when customers come in here and are saying how much they are impressed by the way that the shop is, how organized it is, and what we do here, and the way that we're trying to make it better. And we're not the best. I'm not going to say we're the best. We're one of the best. I will say that. But we are really, really good at what we do, and we're always still trying to do better. It's like I was telling one of my technicians, I said, I don't think I'm that great of a piano tuner, even though I've worked for who I've worked for and I've done what I've done. And I said, I don't know. This was probably 10 years ago. I said this, and he goes, well, that's what makes you a good piano tuner. Because you're always trying to do better. And that's the thing. When you plateau, when you get to a thing and you just stop, and you don't want to go any further than that, and you just idle there, that's not us.
When you stop learning.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You don't want to be the best. You always want to continue to learn.
Right.
No, I want to do this.
What?
But that's continuing to learn.
Yes.
Well, exactly.
There's not a plateau of being the best. That's a constantly moving achievement.
Correct.
It's a
Because
lot.
there's always
The more
someone
you
better
find,
than
the more
you.
have to-
Always.
See, there is.
I mean,
There is.
Not always.
Well,
So
but
then, what's your direction with this podcast then? Because now you're explaining the importance of piano, but now what's your vision with Hamilton Happy Hour?
this is supposed to be for.
Of course, it's going to be me. No doubt.
This podcast, the reason for this podcast is
To get
To-
Billy Joel here.
Well, that's what happened.
yeah. Bill, I'm sure will join us one day.
Bon Jovi.
John,
the
yeah.
The
I mean,
reason,
we've done both of them, so
Yeah.
we're both our pianists. So
and the reason for the podcast is for, it's actually quite a bit. It is to show not just what happens here, what happens outside of here, all over the world when it comes to the piano business, from the teachers, the piano players, the other technicians, the other rebuilders, and put them on the show, even if we just say their name. Even if we just say, listen, this is a good company, this is that, this person, blah, 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 blah. Because there might be someone in California that's listening to this, and that technician is in California.
not yet.
They're going to, but that person,
We're
might,
working on it.
that person might, reach out to that technician. Because here's the thing. A lot of people, unfortunately, look at a piano as a piece of furniture, and it is not. It is a musical instrument. And a musical instrument needs to be maintained. It needs to be taken care of. So you're expanding that part of it. So like at the end of all the videos, which you've seen, where I'm sitting there going, keep your piano happy, have it tuned regularly. That's, I look at a piano as a breathing instrument in the sense that it acts up like people do. It needs the soundboard is the lungs of the piano. The pin block is the heart of the piano. The voice is the voice of the piano. The hammers are the voice of the piano. So you have to do that part of it. And by doing that, you're going to bring in other people. So like all these podcasts in the future that I want to do is bringing in Christian Bolin, Jude Revley, some even guys I haven't even met yet, and then the pianist Wayne and maybe Mace and Todd and these pianists that have their own stories to share.
Copeland.
And Copeland, when they have these stories to share, people in the world need to hear that. Everybody, I think, that has something to say, which everybody has something to say. You don't write it down, okay? You don't read. You don't put it in a book. You don't do that. But you have someone that will. Everybody keeps screwing around here at the podcast, so you're.
Not everybody has to be.
No, okay, it's just him. I'm trying to be real serious here, and y'all are just screwing it all up.
You're doing great.
I was.
But the reason for the
Dunce.
what?
You're the dunce in the classroom. Dunce. You're in the corner with
Are
your
you just figuring this out?
No.
50 years old.
Not at all. Totally not figuring it out right now.
But that's the part of the
Every day on the trip.
well, you two work good together because you're both the same way. But doing that, and it's to have people learn something that they never thought of, and look at a piano a completely different way than what you look at as a piece of furniture, because it is. It's something completely different. And when it's like, that's why we get the free field trips here and we explain how a piano works. It's to keep people's interest into the piano, because look at this. This thing's got more moving parts than a car. A piano holds 20 tons of tension, has over 220 strings. Where else are you going to find something like that? Only in the word piano. That's it. So that's the reason for the podcast, is to teach people what they don't know and to make them think differently about the instrument. Because when you look at something, you can look at a painting and see it's a work of art. You look at a piano, we explain to you why it's a work of art.
Thank you, everybody, for listening in. We really appreciate it. Please tell all your friends, if you like this podcast, to tune in for our next one. We're going to be doing these bi-weekly. And please follow us on Facebook or LinkedIn, Instagram, where you can see what we do behind the scenes here at the shop and get a true understanding of what actually goes into a piano. But we hope you enjoyed, and please feel free to email us if you'd like to talk about some certain topics at info@hamiltonpianoco.com. Thank you.